I feel like maybe if that were revisited and, we actually burnt some of the stuff, like, there could be some good things that come out of local species of wood, but
just looking to burn some stuff again. So
yeah,
any chance? Yeah.
I see a theme. I think you might, some people would call it a problem, but it may be an interesting hobby of fire.
A problem in a different industry, but an advantage for this one.
Right. Now, you guys mentioned that y'all have multiple locations. Do you see that some beers obviously will sell better in other locations as opposed to the other ones, or kind of how does that process work?
Well, there's a seasonality, as I'm sure you've recognized the beer sales. There are a lot of, some of the hop forward beers and the light lagers, even more so these days, sell well during the summer. And then when we're moving into the winter months is when people start to bring stouts and barley wines and, other kind of high octane, high alcohol beers into the fold. Maybe in Texas there's not as much of that, being in a different temperate zone than we're in. But we noticed that trend here. And, where we are now, here in Wells at our location, we're only a quarter of a mile from the Atlantic Ocean. So there is definitely, a big influence when we have people here vacationing that, are here. Like they were just on the beach all day. They want a nice light lager. So they'll have Loon Call, or they'll have one of the other light lagers that we have on draft. Right now we have, this place really, really decked out with Christmas decor. Our design team does a fantastic job. So I think people's, tastes have switched a little bit, and now that we've got the fireplace running and there are stockings and Christmas trees everywhere, people are excited that there's the stout there. So there is, each one of the locations has a slightly different sort of favorite secondary beer that we've noticed with sales trends. Across all four of them, Loon Call is our number one selling beer, which is awesome because, we're very passionate about lagers and that Pilsner specifically, and we're stoked that it's really become such a big part of our offering. But the secondary beer in terms of sales at the different locations, like it changes a good bit from one place to the next. And then, there's the seasonal component. So it's really neat having the four locations to see how different beers perform there. Like our Portland location, they'll just take all the hoppy beers we can get. Here in Wells, people like some of the lighter beers for the summer, but they also, they like to have some of the German style beers in the autumn, the late fall, early autumn, and then, the boozy ones this time of year.
Yeah, I would say that Portland is definitely the outlier. I mean, Portland, the other locations love the lager, especially Biddeford. And then Portland, it's, the amount of breweries up there and the amount of hotbeds up there, you can't grow enough hops up into Portland. So it's very, very cool.
Yeah, we definitely see the seasonal bit when it does come to beer here. I mean, obviously here in Texas, in North Texas, we have, about 90 days where it's around 100 degrees and with no rain. So, of course, there's going to be not as many people wanting the stouts, but, some of us that still love stouts will do it in an air-conditioned building. But, yeah, the lagers definitely go up during the summertime. And, I mean, we have the same thing here whenever it, for us, it's cold when it goes below 55 degrees. So we'll definitely bring those barley wines out, the stouts, and it is always interesting to watch the breweries change when it comes to seasons as to what they're going to release. And, obviously the lighter beers are going to be more prevalent during the warm months, and then the darker beers are definitely in the colder months.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we see that big time up here because we got such a big swing. So it's, yeah.
Man, cold being below 55 degrees.
I know, what a life.
Yeah, when I got up this morning, I looked at the temperature on my little weather station that I have in the yard because I'm also a weather nerd, in addition to being a beer nerd. And yeah, I woke up to 18 degrees this morning. So 55 being cold sounds awesome.
But it was a warm 18.
It was a warm 18.
It was nice.
It was a dry, still 18. So it wasn't the worst 18 degrees I've experienced. Right. Still 18 degrees.
We get that Yeah, we get that weather for about a week, and the entire Metroplex shuts down because we don't know how to operate when it gets any bit of ice or sleet. So things will just close down, and we just stay inside. And the grocery stores are absolutely bonkers the couple days before because everyone thinks they're just going to be shut in forever.
That makes sense. Well,
yeah.
I mean,
Also, not to brag. Go ahead.
I would say if it makes you feel any better, it goes over 100 degrees and I just melt and I don't leave the house. So I'm on the other end. I'm useless. So.
Well, also not to brag, it will be roughly around 70 today. So.
Oh, man, good for you. God. Yeah, that's great. And I guess maybe I'm a bit of a masochist when it comes to the heat. Like I love going out and doing my yard work when it's like 90 degrees plus and really humid. I have this contraption that I made. It's just basically a really cheap shower head with an adapter that hooks up to a garden hose. So I just work for a while and then I take an outdoor shower. Obviously it's like outdoors, so I'm properly clad. And then I just go about my work and, my friends will ask, they're like, oh, it's going to be like 98 tomorrow. What hot weather labors do you have planned? It's like, I'm just going to pull some weeds and prune tomatoes.
Yeah, I used to, at the old house I lived at, we had a garage and I'd always work out there. And I loved it whenever it was above 90 degrees because, like, you're just working out in the sauna and, like, you're just dripping sweat and you're just standing there. And for me, that was one of my favorite things. So I also enjoy doing stuff outside when it's ridiculously hot and people are like, what is wrong with you? I was like, it doesn't bother me. I don't know. I got to obviously put sunscreen on so I don't burn, but beyond that, I'm good.
Oh, so there are more of us out there. That's good to hear.
Oh, I imagine there's so much more. And it's the same thing as the opposite side where you have people that love the cold and they'll just do everything in the cold. And, you get the polar bears wherever they go and jump in ice water. And I'm like, nope, no, thank you. You can have it.
Yeah, that's me. I'll take that all day. That's just nice and refreshing.
No, I'm a hard pass on that one as well, John. I'm not going to jump in there. I mean, the few hundred miles between Philadelphia and southern Maine make a huge difference in terms of, mean temperatures throughout each season and also the amount of daylight that we get here. So that's my thing moving to this latitude is, it's just how short the days get this time of year. Like I'm fine, like the cold I can handle. The snow I can handle. That's kind of fun, depending on when a snowstorm comes through. But it's just the lack of daylight that we have is like, that's something that's different. So, acclimating to that this time of year, fortunately John's been kind enough to allow me to skip out early on sunny days. I have a greenhouse. So this time of year I can still get into about 70, 80 degrees in the greenhouse for about a half an hour around 2 p.m. And then it just falls right off and I get back to work. But I get that nice little dose of sun helps. No sunburn.
I didn't think about that. Go into that a little bit for me because obviously we have full days of sunlight here but I didn't think about the fact that you guys get darker up there as opposed to, down here in Texas. About how much daylight are you guys getting a day?
Well, we think it's about like from 6:30 to 4:30.
Yeah, that's about it.
Wow. Yeah, it's about nowadays. It's pitch dark by around 4:30, probably around 4:15 by the solstice on the 21st, and then you're just getting lighter every day.
I know, it's great.
So,
that's usually my friends and I will get together on the solstice and have a couple of beers and say, hey, this is the worst. It doesn't get any worse than this. It's all uphill from here.
Exactly. It's small price to pay for it would be great if we could do away with the time change just from a purely Maine perspective. But that being said, it's such a beautiful area. It's just one of those things. It's going to be cold and it's going to be dark, but, I think a lot of us wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. I mean, it's, like I said, there was definitely a little bit of a thermal and a cultural shock when I moved up from the Philly area, but I'm really, really glad that I'm here. There's so many great people around, and as we've said before, great breweries and distilleries. It's just an awesome place to be.
Yeah. I should clarify. I think a lot of people would have it a different way, but we convinced ourselves that we wouldn't have it any other way. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's that Maine tenacity.
Yeah.
I believe daylight saving time is ending, isn't it? I'm looking now. No, I thought it was ending.
Heard,
I could be wrong.
yeah, I've heard rumblings of that before, but I think that's kind of like the metric system. It's like every few years somebody's like, yeah, we're going to do this. And then like there's zero support and then it just falls off. But yeah, I mean, it would be cool if, we went metric and we stopped daylight savings time. But
it is a double-edged sword though. I mean, daylight savings time, it would be great for the end of the day, but at the same time, if the sun didn't come up until 7:30 up here, like that's tough. That's very tough on a lot of people. So it's a trade away. So we'll see. I personally would be in favor of it, but can't control what you can't control. So
this is true. Now, I'm not. This might be a little hard for you, but what are three of your favorite beers that y'all have ever made?
Definitely Loon Call is up there for me. It's just, it's just turned out to be like my go-to beer here. It's just a nice, light, crisp, refreshing Pilsner. I'm also a big fan of the Canadian lager because that's a beer that I designed to watch hockey, to drink while watching hockey. It's made with some Canadian malt. It's got a little bit more of an ABV punch to it, so it'll get a little bit more enthusiasm flowing through your veins to watch like your favorite, but one of the poorest performing teams in the NHL. And it's great to kind of throw some of those back and at least hope for a couple of good Donnybrooks during the course of the game. I'd say the two of those are right there up there for me. And let me see. Third, I guess it would have to go to Cryoscape just because it's such an easy drinking beer. And when I'm feeling in the mood for something a bit more hop forward, I get the hops, but it's also crisp and refreshing, and it's an approachable ABV. I don't know. How about you, John?
I know. For me, it is Cryoscape is number one. It's purely a visceral reaction. That's what I want to be drinking. It's just so good, refreshing, and again, I feel like it gets better every time I have one. So that's my favorite. It's very hard for me to keep Loon Call off this list too because it's just such a tremendous Pilsner. I mean, it's got all the flavor that you want right there, and I think what sets it apart is, everything from the balance to carbonation to everything is right on point with it. It finishes so crisp and so clean. It's the best of both worlds. You're getting that flavor of that craft Pilsner, and you're getting a crisp, clean finish, which is so difficult to pull off. And I think the other one that I really have come to appreciate is the Vienna lager. The Vienna, I just love. It has this nice malt presence. It almost has like a hint of vanilla throughout, and then again, it has that trademark crisp, clean finish that is just, I think, sets the beer apart. So those are, I think, my top three, but I could choose four others too. So yeah.
Now, this one I'm not trying to get you in any trouble, but you mentioned there's so many breweries in the area. What are 5 breweries that if people are going to Maine that they need to visit, besides y'all, obviously?
Besides us, I would definitely, for the hopheads, I would send them to Battery Steel. They are, in my opinion, making some of the best New England style IPAs that I've ever had. They're just incredible. They recently opened a restaurant and tap room right across the street from the brewery here, which is convenient because I can go over there and have one of my favorite New England style IPAs on my way home, for better or for worse, because it's a bit of a heavy hitter. I'd say Allagash 100% is a brewery that should be on anyone's list who comes to visit here, just because they're doing such a great job with such a really, really cool portfolio of beers that you're not going to find like many other places in Maine or even within the U.S. And I don't know, I'll try to. Who else? Tributary Brewing Company is doing a great job as well. They're also a very kind of traditional brewery in that they're putting forward a lot of different lagers, and their hoppy beers are still approachable hoppy beers. They don't really play around with hazy beers at all. It's just not something that they have interest in putting in their portfolio. So I don't know, John, you want to take the other two, or do you want me to?
I mean, I've got a few for sure. Maine Beer Company is one that's doing some just
Oh yeah.
extraordinary, I mean, West Coast style, but everything they
Agreed.
do is so